Welcome to Bonehead Weekly. And James and I are tired, and Chad's missing.
And we could pretend we're tired because we've been on a search party for Chad.
But that's not true.
No, we were looking for we've been in a search party, but we were looking for a donut that was great in flavor but low in calories. The search goes on.
The thirst continues.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
But
mother.
if we would have happened to have found Chad while we were looking for that donut, we probably still wouldn't have picked him up because he'd take those donuts from us.
He would take those donuts. He's not a nice person. So, Chad, once again, I don't know. I keep you for years. I've used that line. He's in the clinic getting cured off the wild turkey. But Chad is in, I will say this because he'll be back by the time this is over, unfortunately. But Branson, Missouri?
That sounds vaguely right. By the way, why is it called? I mean, given all our experiences with Chad, why is it called methadone, which ends in done, and yet he never seems to be done with it?
I don't know. I don't know. So, well, Chad's not here, and we truthfully wanted just to get an episode with James and I where we could finally talk about our feelings
Um,
for each other.
with my hands, I feel this.
You could feel me more, just saying.
And see, I want to do. Is it from Tommy? Tommy, do you
Hey.
hear me? Tommy, do you feel me near you?
What the fuck?
Tommy, the musical.
I get it. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen it in a long time. I don't even
Dude, I haven't seen that since college. I just, yeah. Elton John, Pinball Wizard.
Yeah. Um, back
Big
to what
boots, big boots.
back to what we were saying. So this is another one of these where we're going to randomly talk about different things. But we have I'm curious if you're listening to this right now. I shouldn't have paused two or three times there for a second, but I'm curious what I want our listeners that we have one, Barbara's good about it, and a couple others too about, hey, why don't you do this? And hey, why don't you do that? And we hear you. We hear you. We'll do that. But would you want more feedback on what topics they want us to cover? I do.
I would love, I mean, because honestly, and by the way, I love doing this podcast because we've got to meet so many interesting people. And now really want to do the Bugs Bunny
I
Monsters,
get
meet
you
so many
messy
interesting people.
monsters.
But, but, and I actually, so we want to do what people want to see. And if you want us to fight over inane things like why Kroll is better than, I don't know, whatever, pick a topic.
You say
We
crawl
would, I
or
mean, I think
crawler? Because I'm still
I
stuck
pick,
on donuts.
oh, Kroll, a crawler is the cruelest of the donuts.
Well,
Ergo the name.
the
Um,
I think Crawler is the sequel to Crawl, or is it
we're,
Crawlers? It'd be
we're still
Crawlers.
rating. Oh, it's like Alien and Aliens.
See what I did
Um,
there?
but no, I would totally like to hear what people think. But I also think it's really interesting. And I want to give a shout out to Mick. Because Mick Strawn was
Who
Ken
has a
Boggle was a
new movie out, and we will
yes.
be having him on the show in the
Yeah.
next. Spoiler alert! And if Mick's listening to this, he goes, "I don't know what them sons of bitches are talking about," because that's what Mick Strawn
Mick
sounds
doesn't
like.
sound like that at
That's
all. He
exactly
sounds
what he sounds like.
he
Just like
sounds much more like somebody from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yeah, considering he was born and raised, and I think he was born and raised in L.A.
Oh, like it was it East LA?
No,
Does
I
he
don't
know
think he's.
Cheech?
He might. I don't know. We should ask him sometime.
I,
Can
by the
we?
way, would watch like if they did a Muppet Babies. I would watch a Muppet Babies where it's baby Cheech Barrett hanging out with baby Mick Strawn and their adventures. I'd watch that show.
Absolutely. So we
But
do
anyway,
have.
I don't know if you're friends with Mick online. Did you see he posted about helping with Meals on Wheels?
He's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you think about all the people that we've met and all the people that have generously given us their time. And
Hmm.
there's a couple, I haven't got to talk to Joe. There's a couple people that I've been working on. And so hopefully we'll be having some more guests soon that can give us some behind the scenes movie stuff and have some conversations. But we're in a movie theater. What are we gonna say?
I don't know. I need
I
to
hope
turn
it's
this off.
something with that
I'm
Richard
a
Kind. Richard Kind seems like he'd be a good person.
kind guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway,
no,
you were saying Meals
but
on Wheels.
I'm fascinated. from time to time about the people we've had on our show, the people that come back on our show, that we've had all these different guests, and then we do episodes where it's just us talking, and I love all of it. But then there's times when also when Mick was posting about doing Meals on Wheels, I just had a moment where I'm like, hey, it's really cool that Mick does that. It's really phenomenal. But I'm like, I also had that moment where I'm like, huh, I'm reading what Mick Strawn's doing today. Like, there's something cool about
Oh
the
yeah, you mean
connections
because he's
on the show.
famous and purdy?
Well, I mean, and the fact that I have DNA samples from him that I'm not going to
Ooh.
disclose how I got. But the point being is one of the reasons we talked before in the show. You asked the question when we were all three together filming on well, not a couch because Chad won't let us use his couch.
We're
Uh,
not allowed to sit on the furniture,
no,
especially since that
no.
time I got fleas.
But um, I think and I said I'm going to run it into the ground. I think that's why I want to run it to the ground, but I do want to be responsive to what people want. So if there's some weird topic, or if people wanted to send, I think we would do this. Send us a list. If people would send us a list of the weirdest movies, I think and if we can find them, if you send something too obscure that we can't find, if Chad Jennings can't find it on Tubi, he's not interested.
He's not.
But
Mm-mm.
I think if we got a list of people, and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to talk about these weird old movies," I think we'd all sit down and watch them and do it. I
Oh
think we
yeah,
could,
absolutely. Yeah.
because we watched Skidoo.
We've watched way worse.
What was the one that we tried that we did watch as well that Chad recommended that we were like, "No, this is way worse than Skidoo."
Was it the
With
same?
great cast, great cast, Pat Morita and Madeline Kahn and
Oh,
Jerry Lewis.
what's the name where they're playing like robots or
Or
something?
they're playing aliens,
Yeah.
but the
We didn't watch
Chinese
it all.
traveled. No, I think we ran out of
We
time.
couldn't. Did we? I think we turned it off. It's like Hot Bots, Love Bot. No, it's from the
No,
early '80s. It shouldn't exist. I'll have to look it up. You keep talking while I do this.
it's almost offensive to one-celled organisms.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've watched a lot of bad movies. It may, I don't know, but it's got such a great cast. It's one of those
Yeah.
things that like, how did this? I wonder if that's how people will one day talk about movie 43. But I don't think so. I don't movie 43.
I
There's
like
part.
20 minutes of that movie.
I no. Dana and my wife and I saw it in theaters. We
Yeah.
saw it in theaters because we picked between that. There was something very serious, and neither one of us was in the mood for serious. And by the way, movie 43 met the requirement of not being at all serious.
It absolutely is not. I am trying to find it. You keep talking. So it's not the errand boy. It's not the pants. What is it? It's like
But
bebops, bops, something like that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to keep looking at this. Why is it not
how
coming?
many movies is Jerry Lewis, Pat Morita, and Madeline Kahn in,
Well,
Joe?
I'm just looking through. I'm actually going through Jerry Lewis's full filmography
Oh,
because
you're
I'm
just
that kind.
trying to. By the way, we're only a couple years away from
Heartbeeps. It's heartbeeps.
Heartbeats.
And by the way,
Wait,
I still didn't find it. I figured it out on my own. It's not listed on the IM on when you're going through the.
oh wait, Heartbeats. No, Heartbeats is Andy Kaufman
Oh, well, then what is the Jerry Lewis one?
because Heartbeats is Andy Kaufman and Bernadette Peters.
Yeah,
Um,
that is right. Hold on. Slapstick of another kind.
yeah, that's it. That's it. Whew, whew. And there's not a lot of slapstick in it. There's not. I
Ooh.
don't care what people say. That movie is not about slapstick. So
Bernie
anyway,
Taupin's in it
all of
too.
this being said, I would love to do stuff like that. I would love, and not just that. Anything you all want us to talk about. If you want us to
Like
talk
your
about our
sex life?
favorite, I mean, it'll have to be a short episode.
It's
So
just it's low
that's one
hanging
of
fruit. That's an easy joke.
bonehead fun size at best.
No one's ever had fun with my size.
Um,
James said it was a good size. And we all know what that euphemism means.
I'm nearsighted though, so
That's
I don't even know what I meant by that.
well,
I
that's the
don't
reason why I
know.
put it in your face. I've got to stop.
Well, if
Um,
I've learned anything from that one song, Joe, she stacked to the ceiling, likes to shove it in your face. Baby likes to rock it like a boogie woogie choo choo train.
James,
Yeah,
Dr. Jerkface Thomas,
yeah,
we've been friends for 20 years, over
yeah,
20 years. Think
yeah.
about that. Never ever have I had you quote that song to me before.
Dude, I'm still full of surprises.
Over 20 years, ladies
I'm
and gentlemen, there has rarely been a week go by that I have not exchanged. His office used to just adjoin mine, and he, instead of throwing things away in his trash can, he would come through the buddy door and throw them into my trash can and say nothing and walk back to his office because he thought it was hilarious. And then some days I would play Rome by the B-52s as loud as I could because why? He's an asshole. That's why. I mean,
no,
referring to me.
I mean, no, I agree. Well, and
And
it's
this is the first time I have ever heard you quote Boogie Woogie Choo Choo Train.
well, I'm still full of surprises.
You are still
By the way, it's the
full
same.
of
It's the same
creepy
thing.
hatred filling.
It's the same thing. My wife and I will be married 20 years in less than a week from when
20
we're recording this.
years?
20 years,
About time
and
to put.
I still surprise her from time to time.
Is it
Um,
anything positive though?
no, not at all. I mean, I she was surprised, but I think the poor other girl was terrified.
Oh my gosh. I don't.
Um,
By
that's
the
not
way, I
true
am
at
trying to
all.
write down James said boogie woogie, and woogie is not a word.
Uh, who in whose dictionary, sir? I would
Damn
argue.
sucks.
I would argue if you look at, I'm sure, by the way, if you pull up Urban Dictionary, Woogie is in there as something. I don't want to know what it means, but I'm sure it's in there.
Yeah.
I would bet uh, credits to Navy Beans that it's in there.
Credit to Navy beans?
And Scotty says it in an episode of Star Trek. I was going to say dimes to donuts, but I was afraid you'd take me up on the donuts, and I
I
can't.
would love to
I
have
got
some donuts.
budget issue being what budget issue is.
We should talk about media in a second, but did we talk about my glasses last time?
No, where did you get those glasses?
Well, these I couldn't take. I went to the Dollar Tree. Here's the problem. James has heard me bemoan this audience, but I'm getting old. I had 20/20 vision. I am now years old, and I need sometimes watch this. James is looking over reading glasses.
You look like you remind me of a very young Guillermo del Toro.
Without the talent, right?
I said young.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
James is talking to somebody off screen. So if you're watching this, I put on my reading glasses just for a second because I bought some at the Dollar Tree because I'm cheap, and then I went on Amazon and got a whole collection of different colors, and I've now turned into Danny Lewis. If you don't know who that is, that would be my dad. My dad just doesn't keep one pair of reading glasses, do they, James?
No.
You
You. I
have
mean,
reading glasses in the barn. You have reading glasses in the car or truck. You have it on the tractor, James. James, did your dad do this?
yeah. This is a true story. Actually, this is really weird. You want to make me feel make? You want me to make you feel a little bit
No,
better?
I want you to. I
My
am sharing
father.
a middle. Well, I'm past middle aged. I mean, who in the hell lives to be 160?
My father kept reading glasses. He had one in the living room, one in the TV room,
Yeah.
one on the kitchen table, and he did have a set in the barn. The other funny part about that, though, you know what he also kept in all those places? And it's
What?
weird. I still think it's dental floss.
No, I've never heard this. I knew he hid some whiskey from time to time, but I didn't
Oh,
know.
he had, oh man, not just whiskey. God, he rock gut stuff, plastic bottle vodka, stuff like that.
Oh,
But
I used
no,
to do that back in the day.
he also would have dental floss, and it got stuck in his head. He grew up the way he grew up. He didn't go to the dentist a lot when he was younger.
Yeah.
And when he started going to the dentist, really in his 30s, a dentist told him, listen, if you held a gun to my head and told me and said I had to tell you to either floss or brush your teeth, I'd tell you to floss. You should have floss with you always. For some reason, my father ignored tons of other medical advice. Let
We
me
all
drive
know.
that point home.
We all know.
And
Rest his soul. Don't mean
but
anything
for
bad
some
about
reason,
it.
that advice that he got in his no, but in his mid 30s, when a dentist told him you should always have dental floss on you. I mean, back when he used to drive to work, it was in his car or truck, whatever he was driving at the time. And it was so I literally used to be able to go up to my parents and be like, y'all got any? Never mind. Because it would be in every room of the house.
But
And
dental floss.
dental floss, yeah. There you go. Weird insight. By the way, if anybody wonders why I'm as strange as I am, it's really not my dad's fault. But he's also, we can't rule out his
We
contributions.
can't. So I don't know if I look terrible with them or not. I really don't need it most of the time, but I'm getting to where I probably need to carry them from time to time into a restaurant to look at a menu, and because I don't eat as much as I used to when I
Uh,
just used to say yes and reach the menu back.
I've got a question about, and this is actually a
I
sincere,
know
and by the
this is
way,
very boring. I'm sorry.
any listener
I'm
under
having a
30,
hard
I was
time
about to
adapting.
say, is going, oh, good, they're going to go. They became the grumpy old men. But I've got an actual question
What's
about
with
this.
cats? Back in my day,
Oh my God, the only thing that actually grumpy old men is oh shoot, Mickey from Rocky. Why am I blanking on his name?
Burgess Meredith.
Burgess Meredith is the best part of those. I love
Yeah, I mean, and
Jack
I
Lemmon
like
and
both.
Walter
They're both
Matthau.
funny movies, and I love Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, and they're both hilarious in it. But Burgess Meredith gets all the best lines.
Well, and his where I forget if it's one or two, part one or part two, but where they have all the outtakes of him sitting on the bench at the end. They have, yeah,
I
and
think so.
his
I think
like
it's part two.
yeah, and just all the lines. And the one I always remember is something like, "Hey, why don't you and I go to this Hawaiian island I found called Come On, I Want to Lay You."
Leia.
And oh, it's Burgess Meredith in his 80s doing those lines. Hilarious. Me doing them at a school function, not uh, letter got sent. But the what oh what I do have
Yeah.
an actual question. So you talk about needing them.
Yeah.
My other question to you though is the other thing that my dad, and I'm not to the point where I'm doing this. I'm obviously wearing shades now, but I have light sensitivity that my dad didn't have. Have you started complaining about how well lit restaurants are? Because
No.
that was one of my dad's biggest pet peeves ever.
Yeah. Well, so I went to sign my kid out of his, and I won't say where, I won't say summer camp. I went to sign him out of summer camp. And there was, it looks like it was about to storm, and they've either had him in the gym or inside because of the heat advisory or whatever. Doesn't matter. Going to sign, and they've got the lights out because they've got some sort of YouTube sing along dance party thing going on. It's at the end of the day.
I just assume it was Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, if you want to sponsor us, I will assume everything's Mr. Beast.
Right. But it's the end of the, I don't care. And I go to sign him out. I know it's on the second page because of last names. I actually, she couldn't be over 5 foot tall, the 19, 20-year-old people that they employ at these things. Can I help you, sir? And it's that, oh God, old. She thinks I'm so, so old. I go, I'm sorry, ma'am. I actually had to walk the whole thing back over to the door where the light was coming in from the hallway to find my son. Because yeah, sometimes it's just too dark.
No, and like I said, I'm not to that, but I do because I mean, I do wear shades sometimes for other reasons, but I do tend, a lot tends to bother me after a while. And so I don't have that problem yet, but I can remember by the time my dad was in his mid 30s, we would go into a restaurant and he would like, it could be an Applebee's, and he would actually make the comment going, "I don't want to stay here. Evidently, the food can't be that good if they can't pay the electric bill."
It
And
really,
that was his go-to line. But I realized it was because he was having trouble seeing in the, they would restaurants, especially, I don't know if they still do it because I'm not allowed in them. But
right.
about 7 o'clock, they would dim the lights for date night or whatever. The lights would get a little dimmer
They don't do
later in
that
the
at the
evening.
Dairy Queen.
No, no, I worked at a Dairy Queen. We couldn't do that because then we would
The
have to.
hobos would fall asleep
No,
with
no, we couldn't.
those little golden ashtrays that you all had out
Oh
on the
man,
table.
yes, I used to have to put those out. I can remember. I was saying about that. I told my kids about that. I'm like, no, you would have to. You take them and you'd have to put them out. And my kids couldn't believe. They were like, "Wait, people smoked in restaurants?" Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
what if you didn't want to smoke? Well, technically, we had a smoking section, but our lobby was only so big. So,
Yeah.
I
People
mean,
smoked everywhere they went.
everywhere, everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
The handing out of cigars at the birth of a child worked because the smoking room was right next to the lobby in the hospital. Go
Yeah.
back and watch the old healthcare films where it's like, oh, you're recovering from a heart attack. Here's your steak and eggs
Here's your steak and eggs,
because you need lots of protein to heal your heart.
and I have a whole box of red apple cigarettes.
Yep. Yeah.
Which leads me to probably what our topic should be. And I don't Chad talks about this, and I'm not doing it because he's not here, but introducing your children to movies. What is the appropriate type of movie for age groups? So mine's almost 8 years old. James, yours are 32 and 46, but they're fifth. Oh my God, I forgot. Bug's 15.
Oddly enough, the 46-year-old was born.
Was
Yeah,
born
yeah.
alive,
The 46-year-old, no, was born later. That's the
oh
weirdest
my!
part. I don't know how they jumped.
But
That's
it's 15
quantum
and
leap nonsense.
15 and 12.
13, 15, 13.
Oh my God, it's 13. Oh my God. Tell him I'm sorry.
No,
So
no, it's fine. I'm just ecstatic. I'm 5 years away from them being the state's problem.
so
Pay
he
them taxes.
he has a mother, and sometimes I have to discuss these things with her. It discusses, yeah, and and of course I'm bad. And this is the point. I actually this was a kind of, if you don't mind, this is kind of what I'd like to talk about because it's been on my mind a lot. Because I am terrible about being a good gatekeeper for what he should and should watch. And I've beat myself up about this several times. And then, we were the other day, he was hanging out with us. We showed him the end of Predator and Predator 2, and he was loving it. Now he's got he loves the Predator. He thinks that's cool. And then because Alien versus Predator is PG-13, I showed him that. I'm telling you all this to say, I know I am riddled with problems. I know I am a terrible person. I know that I have so many issues. But house, kids insured, no one around here is hungry. Health insurance, did I mention that? School, educated. Was it really that bad on me being a latchkey child? And being able to, at what age is appropriate? Because I have an answer to this that I've finally figured out, but that was a long story to get to a question of, I also want you to talk about what do you think is appropriate, not appropriate? Because I clearly digested things way too soon. However, I'm not giving myself kudos. I'm just saying, James, I'm not in prison.
Well, and
Acquitted.
here's probation. Anyway, the you bring up a really interesting point because I think if I'm
I
picking on my
got
two
that.
children,
Thank you.
no, no, I do think it's a really interesting point because if I pick on my own children and they love when I do this, but just aside, I think, and you've heard me say this before, it kind of depends on the kid a little bit because my son is like I was. He doesn't handle horror movies well at his age.
Yeah.
Like my daughter has flipped that switch. She had some friends over. They were watching every Hell House Limited, LLC,
Oh,
blah blah
I need to
blah.
watch that and review it for Scarefest. I always see them. I've never watched them.
I mean, it's funny because she approaches horror about the way I do, in that she mocks them, and then there'll be a jump scare, and they'll get to her. And I love that for her. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes,
it's
of
kind of how
course.
I view it. You mock the entire concept of it because nobody would actually do. Seriously, Friday the 13th Part One, I'll give you. But like, oh, this camp where all these people died? No, we're totally opening it next summer. No, you ain't. Ain't nobody coming.
Multiple summers of Camp Blood.
Yeah, yeah. Like at some point, no, nobody's coming. Um, and so anyway, that's part of it. I think the other part about it is the realization that I've came to is that there is a generational difference here. And as much as I would love to say, hey, I don't need to think about it, we totally need to think about it. In that, to be completely honest, I can shield my kids from everything at the house all day long, and I can work really hard to do it. And I can put every control on the TV, and I can take their devices and put every control on it. And then they're going to go to school, and there's going to be a kid that pulls out his phone and goes,
Yeah,
"Hey, look at this."
already.
And I know that because, quite frankly, I got a letter from when my son was in first grade. A kid stole his mom's phone that had some adult material on it, brought it to school and was showing it around to all the kids in first grade.
What was his mom's name?
I
I'm
don't know,
joking,
but
by the way. Keep going.
I can tell you what her interests were, and
Well, I could stand to hear
she
about this a little bit more, James.
yeah yeah. Well, she was very, very interested in things of a phallic nature, and you know, and had several images on her phone.
And upside down
Um,
pineapples and BDSM. Got it. Keep going.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wake the gimp up. Anyway,
Keep
um,
sleeping.
I say all of that to say, at what point then is it like to the point of why do I beat myself up? I mean, luckily, you know, 90% of the kids in that first grade class went ew and didn't want to look and stuff like that. No big deal. And so when they sent the letter home, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wish it wouldn't have happened. But so putting all this control on stuff, now does that mean that I'm going to rush out and be like, oh, here's kids, you totally need to watch Basic Instinct? No, I'm not going to do that. At the same time, though, am I naive enough to think that my kids, who are both teenagers now, have not seen things, if I hope not on their own phone, but if not on their own phone, that other people haven't showed them stuff? Or that they're not hearing, like, it's like when we went to school, how, I don't know about you, I
Yeah.
had to hear about everything in Faces of Death ever. Now, I never sat down and watched Faces
I
of
still have
Death,
never seen one. No, I haven't.
but I literally, oh, you totally have to watch it. There's this scene where, and they would go, I mean, it was like they were directing,
Yep.
telling me every, oh, and then this angle, and then you just see. I had to hear all of that stuff. The difference is now they wouldn't talk about it. They would just say, oh, look at this. It's on my phone.
Yep.
And so, am I naive enough to think that's not happening? Now, again, that doesn't mean that I'm saying, oh, well, since they're going to see it anyway, I'm going to show it to them. No, but
So
I don't beat myself up over it.
the answer you have my answer is it's extremely subjective. My son, he really wants to watch Five Nights at Freddy's. I have a friend whose two sons are 1 year or 2 years younger, or like a year younger and then two more years younger. His kids love it. He's let him watch it. He, by the way, is a good person and a great guy, and I don't doubt that he's not a wonderful father. His kids playing baseball, go to school, to doing all the good things. Now, I have kept him from Five Nights at Freddy's for his mother doesn't want it. I get that. And the second part is I do agree with her. There's stuff about showing a movie with dead kids in it to a kid that just didn't quite set right with me. But it doesn't matter. But it does matter because I do control what he is here. And by the way, James, you had an excellent point. The cell phone that we're talking about, controlling what comes through there and being able to lock that out because there's the word that I do hate, influencers out there, especially as they get up there into those teens, preteens and whatnot, we have to watch what's going in it. So I guess when I was talking about this, I really meant movies, but you brought up that excellent point if we have to watch all kinds of media. I mean, every kind of pornography you can think of is right here at the tip. Thank God. I mean, it's right here at any time, right?
I love the way that you said every, and you're holding up your own phone. Every porn ever, right?
Right here. I couldn't believe it. I said, Samsung, can you make this hard drive just a little bit bigger? Anyway, so it's right there. So watch it. So I'm going back and forth of whether I should watch it because I've sat here and I've let him watch this. I know my son. My son, unless it's like animals or something or too creepy, he's okay. The blood and guts of people doesn't bother him. He cannot stand, like a lot of people, to watch anything ever happen to animals. He can't, and I wouldn't show him too much blood and guts. That's not, I've not shown him The Evil Dead or Dead Alive or anything like that. But I also know that if it's a spooky movie and it's kind of, and it's a little bit more, I need to worry about not that, but him being a parrot with language.
Mhm.
So he wants to
Yeah,
repeat things. I can't imagine where he gets it.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's all back to what you were saying about your son and your daughter. It depends on your child. He handles gremlins, and then he won't let me show him Poltergeist
yeah.
because he was like, "Nah, it's a little too much." And then he tells me what it is. Though that looks
Yeah.
too much.
Well, and that's a level of self awareness that you hope your child has,
Well, you're
right? Like,
trying. You're trying.
yeah, yeah. And I thought, but
And
I
I'm
think that's a
pushing for
good
her to do
sign.
Poltergeist. I was like, it's PG. And then there was something, there's a definition. There's a definition in the Lewis household, which is called bag end. Oh, no, no, hold on. This is 80s PG. Little different. And he knows the definition of 80s
But you know,
people.
you bring that up, and actually, there is, and I don't know his name. I don't remember. He pops up on my Facebooks when I'm doom scrolling. Um, but he uh, he does millennial commentary, is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But he's Gen X, and he does. Let me tell you why Gen X is the way that we are. And I listened to one of them, and and I stopped on it because he's talking about film,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, if you wonder, everybody's like, oh, well, they were latchkey kids. They were. And he goes, there's validity to that. But he said, also actually stop and think. And I really do wish I know his name because I do think more people should watch him, just like more people should watch us.
Wink.
Anyway, but one of the things that he said, I watched it was just a 4 minute Facebook video thing, whatever those are called, real. But I watched it, I'm like, he is right. He said, one of the reasons Gen X is as tough as we are is because the media that was popular that we consumed put a layer of protection on us. And then he actually argues, he goes, actually, it warped us. And he uses the example of the never ending story.
Yeah.
He said, everybody, he goes, I can remember my parents rented it and was like, oh, it seems like something you'd like. Didn't watch it with me. I'm sitting there watching a horse die in the swamp, and you
From
realize
sadness.
yeah, and that's what he said.
Oh.
You realize that the world is going to beat you down. And he goes, I remember being 7 or 8 years old and realizing that's not sadness, that's reality.
It's
And he
true.
goes, I was in that moment, 7 years old. They showed me a movie where being an adult, being in reality, sucked the life out of a living being to where it wanted to die in a swamp. And I had that realization by myself in front of a movie my parents gave me. And and then he points that actually, and he did one we've talked about before. He said, "Oh, we got you a little Disney movie to watch called Homeward Bound."
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's
And
a
he
tearjerker.
And he said he was like he's sitting there and he goes, we watched that and it was oh friend other people saying friendships are forever. He goes, no, I sat there and watched that and I can remember being young going, F those other animals. They left him when he was still alive. The cat left him, the
Mm-hmm.
dog left him. They couldn't wait 10 minutes to go, well, maybe he'll get out.
Yep.
And he goes, that warped me on the idea of friendship. And he went through about 7 or 8 movies. And I'll sit there and listen to him like he's valid. Everyone, because we've talked about some of those before.
Yeah, of course.
But he made the comment. He was like, so all this stuff about well movies are more violent now and all that stuff. He goes, no, no, no. There is nothing that was more mentally damaging than watching Artreyu lose Artax, right? The horse.
Artax, yeah.
His means of transport, but also the only person that was the only living being that still was with him in a swamp because of being an adult. And he goes, that's what they gave me to prepare me for the world. That's a pop culture they fed me. And I was listening to him going, we've talked about a lot of these on the show. I forget some of the other movies, but all of them were ones that we've touched on before. And I was sitting there going, yeah, yeah. I mean, in all fairness, um, the most mind warping movie. Actually, another one he picked on was Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
And he did make a point I didn't think about. He goes, why are we still showing Hocus Pocus to kids? They shame that kid for being 16 and being a virgin. Like,
Oh my God. There is so much shaming. There's so much. Anyway, we could get on to the 80s things for a while.
but anyway, no. So
Go show Goonies
I
to your kid. It's not the, it doesn't, it's, there's certain lines, monsters,
yeah.
some of them.
But I mean, and so that's the entire thing, though. And so going back to your point, I was saying there, thinking about it about some of the movies I took my kids to see. I used Monster Trucks as an example before. Monster Trucks doesn't warp you. Monster Trucks, that's a movie that's for kids that I was sitting there going, it's got a good environmental message. It's got the monster's not really scary, all that stuff. And I'm like, man, my parents did just set me down and be like, no, watch whatever you want. I mean, not watch whatever you want, but so even some of the approved stuff that we had was inherently creepy. If Chad was here, I'm pretty sure Chad would mention Return to Oz and the Wheelies or whatever they were.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, they had to create PG-13 in the 80s for movies because they just took them so far. If it wasn't and Spielberg's responsible for a lot of this. It wasn't Poltergeist. It was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, it's just I'm getting off track. We're both probably getting off track a little bit, but it's an interesting point of Well, because Scarefest, I've had a couple requests on there, not a lot, but a few requests about, oh, do things like, and I have, I've done a little bit better job than last year, but it's hard of what can you recommend for kids? I don't know. It's so damn subjective.
Yeah, yeah.
Damien Leone told me, he's the director of, if you're listening to this, you don't know, he's the director of Terrifier. Not only did he give me a good story, but he was just, his mom, he was raised by a single mom who is named after Damien from The Omen. So what's the single mom show him? Well, that's how you do. And anyway, he was at a convention because, well, he was at Scarefest 2 years ago. We were doing the panel, it's packed. And I may have told this on here before, but there was some people in there with like 3 and 4 year olds. And I was like, you guys are the worst parents ever. And ha 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 ha. And then I asked him just half jokingly because, they probably brought the kids with them to me because they're fans and they just, they don't have
Yeah.
a babysitter. Not judging, no big deal. I asked Damien, I said, so what is the youngest one you've, is a 4 year old. They showed him, watch Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Now, to me, that is absolutely, positively, I would never do that. There's no way I'd show that stuff to my son. But the guy's a director now. His mom named him after the Omi and Damien. And he said the first thing he said to this lady who was talking to the 4 year old was like, this is how you get Damien Leone
Well, in all fairness, Joe, didn't you show my daughter Return of the Living Dead?
when she was 2.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
expect her to remember it and she didn't pay attention to it.
Well, no, no, but the flip side is too. I think
Maybe that's the reason. Maybe I screwed up your kid and mine.
no, no, I don't think you did, and that's actually my point that I was going to make. I actually meant it as kind of a compliment. My daughter didn't like horror for quite some time. Now she's really into it, but I also can remember, we took her to Scarefest,
Yeah.
and she saw the critter
Mm-hmm.
and said, to her it was a big kitty. It didn't matter if it had blood on
Yeah.
its teeth, the big critter that they had patrolled the floor and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a big kitty to her, and she thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things too is again, it does boil down to knowing your kid.
You have to know
And
if you're a good parent. I'm not trying to shit on parenting. I know everybody's got a different definition. I don't interrupt you. But I do think a good parent should know their kid somewhat.
well, and I think the other thing that man, parenting's impossible. It is, and I say
Because you
that as
fail every day.
yeah. And here's the entire thing. Let's say you're listening to this and you're like, no, these people are stupid, they're nuts, and you may not be wrong, by the way.
No.
You may not be wrong.
No.
But here's my counter argument. I know, and I would imagine you know a few people that have went out of their way to shield their child
Mm-hmm.
from things,
Yes.
and I have then seen those children not be able to function
Or
when they don't have that protection.
yeah, or when they don't have when they take the bumper guards or baby guards down, they go somewhat buck wild and have lots of
Yeah, yeah. They so either they're not ready to function, or there's like, oh, the first time I'm not being watched, I'm going to do something really stupid.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen that happen, and so it is a no-win scenario. I think the thing that's really important though is if you show your child something, you don't just sit them down in the room, let them watch it by themselves, and never bring it up again.
Yeah.
I think having conversations about because my son doesn't like horror movies, but he loves Godzilla. The Godzilla, the King Kong, he loves all of those. We watched the Monarch series on
Oh, we still
Apple.
haven't watched
All
Monarch
of
yet.
that stuff is so he really enjoys that, and so we do that. But actually, that's the key point is we do it together. And then we have conversations. Like he very much is aware at 13, Godzilla's not real.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also when he's younger, as we had those conversations about, and then and then you can actually turn it into teaching moments. Like, okay, Godzilla's not real, but if you do have an emergency and you have alarms going off, what do you do? How would you respond? You can do stuff like that and make it take this fictional thing, take the wound out of it, take the Godzilla's not real, but also use it as a way to say, but if there is an emergency, how are you going to respond? How are you see what they're doing? That's bad, or see what that's they're doing? That's good. What and make it something you know relevant.
Well, So that's the thing I've done with my kid is and his mom does a good job with this too, is oh no, you know who did this? Rick Baker did this. Who's Rick
Yeah.
Baker? Oh, you know Rick Baker because we remember when you got on that Michael Jackson kick that hasn't ended yet? No. Really? Because if I have to listen to blah 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 one more time. No, the Thriller video. Oh yeah, the Thriller video. Well, that's directed by John Landis. John Landis, yeah. So last night, back to you, James, and it's not always horror. I, sh he really loves Ghostbusters. He loves other things. So and he has seen the Blues Brothers, but he's not seen the movie. Well, most people who've seen the Blues Brothers growing up our age wasn't until they were older because they watched the TBS version. But you don't know that was a
I was like,
hard R film in
I've
1980
I fell in love with the Blues Brothers on TBS,
because it
and
played all the time.
it did, and I loved it then. I love it even more once I saw it. As really, I probably didn't see it unedited for TV because we had it taped off TBS. I probably didn't see the unedited version of that till I was 16.
I probably didn't see it till yeah later. So I showed it to my kid last over 2 nights, and I missed a couple of words, a couple of F words, but I was trying to. It was like now you can't watch this. Yes, you can watch this dance sequence. Now you can't watch this because I really don't want to spend the next hour explaining Nazis to a 7-year-old. I just but and then I end up he's like, now who are those guys? It's oh man, they belong to this group. They're filled with hate. You don't like them. It's done as a joke. But fast forward, so I mean, it's hard. Because as a
He could
parent,
totally watch Blues Brothers 2000 though.
I he could, but should we do that to him?
The songs are great. I will defend
I
the
know that,
soundtrack on
yeah,
Blues
the
Brothers
soundtrack is,
2000 to death.
and I was talking to, and I haven't, we haven't done it, but it's difficult. So I think at the same, what you're saying is correct. Have a conversation with him. Know your child. Know your child. I know mine's a parrot. So more language that he thinks is funny is going to be spoken. The more I've got to make sure that he keep it out of his at least hearing it all the time. But at the same time, mine's already 7 and 8 and is coming home, much less school, just camp this summer. And he doesn't go to a cheap camp. James knows where he goes. James sent your kids there.
Yeah.
Not the most expensive, but not a cheap place, right?
No, no.
And what you get in the parking lot with all these Highlanders and Lexuses and BMWs and they're picking up. But I know there's 2 or 3 things he's come home and said. Nothing awful. I was like, you didn't hear that. You didn't hear it here. You got this attitude from school.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there and by the way, I mean it's actually a hard dance to again, it's another way that being a parent is no win snare. And I'll give you an example of this. I didn't know this would be a parenting episode, but this is actually a relevant topic to pop culture. The other thing that we run into is that our kids, I mean, I tried to make my kids like me, but somehow they still have friends. I don't know why. I don't know how that happens, but my son has a friend. I can obviously name names.
Yeah.
But he wanted to have a birthday thing at the house. He wanted to have 2 sleepovers back to back, and he brought his sports friends on one day and then his gaming friends on another day because they're different.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I made a stupid assumption as a parent that I actually thought logically, okay, listen, when is my house going to be the rowdiest? It's going to be the sports kids. They're going to be throwing balls. They're going to be blah, blah, blah. They're going to be running up and down the hallway, running up and down the stairs, going in and out of the house. No, those sports kids. And I really, and then somebody actually made the comment when I was telling the story at my job. They're like, they're sports kids. They're used to having a coach. Coach won't let them act like that. So they're used to, like, if there's a parent around, they're like, oh, we're going to, and I said, that may be it. Maybe it man, his gaming friends, and one kid in particular who, again, I will not name, almost got kicked out of my house by me because that particular child, who is now, was a teenager at the time, looked at my wife, the love of my life, and boldface called her the B word to her face.
What?
And my son told me later, he was like, Dad, I actually thought you were just going to grab him and take him outside and drop him and be like, you're done. And I said, and I looked at my son and I said, you know why I didn't? Because
That's illegal.
well, no, that's not what stopped me. I'll be honest. I was holding back because A, your mom's capable of defending herself. Like she handled it. Like she was like, "Oh, really?" That kid backed down quick. But I was like, and B, he's your friend. And here's how this is going to go in your life. Let me tell you now, from my experience. I was like, how many kids from my middle school, or how many of my friends are from my middle school that you've met? And he went, none. And I was like, you know why? I don't see them. There's a couple I would still talk to. I would still, but our lives took us in different directions. So one of two things is going to happen. Either this particular kid who's, 13 is going to realize, okay, that was a stupid thing, and is going to grow up and is going to mature and is going to be, you're a kid, you make stupid mistakes. We all do.
Hmm.
But you're going to learn from it and you're going to become better. Or he's not, and you'll cut him out of your life yourself. I was like, I'm trying to give that kid a shot. I was like, now that was his shot. I was like, you've had him to the house since, and I can't help but notice every time anybody's around, he is yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I was like, so it sounds like he learned something,
Yeah.
but that was his one, and my son knows that was his one. My son has told him repeatedly, dude, you messed up. Like what? My parents are some of the most welcoming people you'll meet, and they wanted you to have fun, have a good time, but you crossed that line. Like I heard my son talk to him on the phone when he was inviting him over again. He goes, "And what are we not going to do?"
Yeah.
And so that's the other part of it, though, right? You also have to. I think that's the other part with being a parent is what do you do? Do you tell your child you can't see that kid anymore? Well, he's still going to see him. They're still going to go to school. They're still going to. So what do you do? So that's the way I handled it. And by the way, there may be people listening who are going, no, you totally should have, body slammed that kid into this concrete. And I wanted to, but I didn't because I just don't look good in prison orange.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I guess. Well,
I,
anyway,
I just don't want to do manual labor in prison. It's not what I look like. It's,
the thing is it's subjective. Do the best you can with you. But by the way, we were supposed to do a short episode. We're 45 minutes in.
I know. Well, but I mean, you brought up an interesting topic though, because I do think it's the same way. So I've got a flip side to this. You're talking about movies. How about books?
All right. I actually have a complete, and I bet you have the same opinion about this I do. I actually just said this to my son because my son really good at math, working on reading, the opposite of me. And I said this to him because I truly believe this, and I've heard this from educators when I was young who said it to my mom. I don't care what he's reading as long as he's reading.
I mean, that's how I got into comic books.
Do
Because
you care that much what they're reading as long as they're reading?
this is a true story, 100% true story. My eldest,
Yep.
I literally said, "What have you been reading over the summer? You need to be reading something." She goes, "Well, I don't think you'll be okay with what I want to read." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "I want to read some true crime stuff." And I said, "No, come on, let's go." I brought her down the stairs. I said, "Listen, have you ever heard of A.J. Holmes?" No. There's a great book called Devil in the White City.
Hmm.
It's right here on the shelf. I took it off the shelf. I said, now he is like the American Jack the Ripper. Her eyes lit up. I said, read it. I was like, now, if it gets too much, again, if it bothers, stop. And I'll show you some documentaries about him. He's dead. He's not, But I was like, but if you want to, The Devil in the White City, and who wrote that? It's really good. It's really well written. It doesn't sugarcoat, but it also doesn't make him seem brilliant either. It shows what a weird person he was. And then I gave her Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky. I said, listen, this is one of my favorite books. I love Crime and Punishment. I was like, but it also does a great job of showing it doesn't celebrate the murder. It shows how it weighs on Raskolnikov and pulls him down and drags him down till he feels like he's not worthy of love. He's not worthy of being in society. He's not, and he only frees himself when he takes the guilt, when he takes the punishment. And so I gave her those two things, and that's exactly because I mean that's the way my parents were. I mean, my father was anti-sex in film, but when I was like, I want to read Brave New World, he was like, yeah, go ahead.
I
Because
just I'm
I
with you.
mean, and there's, by the way, if you've never read Brave New World, they refer to each other as wonderfully pneumatic because they're as easy as breathing. She's
I
so
just,
wonderfully pneumatic.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let him read. It's a good point. All right, let's wrap this up. I can't wait till Chad's not back.
Or back. I mean, whatever. It doesn't. What? Look,
What? Go ahead. This is the
real quick
last
to
point.
close this up, Joe. What do you think he would have added? No, what do you think he would have added to this episode?
Well, whatever it is, we would have introduced, or to his girls, he would have introduced something different than me, and then he would have complained that I complained about the plot of Goonies. But past that, I don't know. I think he'd pretty much agree with us. It's very subjective. And oddly enough, and you're true about, you've probably witnessed this, but I'm probably more conservative as a parent than probably people would have thought I was, or it would.
Yeah, you're right. I would say in some ways you're more conservative than I am.
Yeah, in
I
certain
mean,
ways I am, in a little way. But anyway, this I don't know what Chad would have brought to this, but all I want to say is I don't know if anybody's got the right answer because it depends on your darn kid.
well, yeah, and there, I mean, you can give a kid everything in the world, they could end up a serial killer. You can give them nothing, they can end up a serial killer. We're just trying to not make my kids serial killers.
And with that, this has been
Bonehead Weekly. But if my kids do pop up outside your window at night, make sure the doors are locked. I'm just saying they shouldn't be out. We try to turn the electric fence on. It's a Jurassic Park situation, folks.
they are creepy. Good night.